Looks like we got a good group of people coming in. Oh, and these are some old friends, Norm. These must be people you owe money to because they're just coming on from out of the blue. We've got Michael Nastashkin is here.
Oh my goodness.
And Chasen is here. Chasen. The old whiskey, the old Scotch parties. All right, so we'll get started here, and just let you all know we're going to get to questions as soon as possible. There's a lot of ways to ask questions. You can raise your hand, you can go into the Q&A box or the chat, but pretty much we want to hear your voices. So when we get to the Q&A part, we're going to love to hear from your voice and talk. If that's something you can't do, you'll just type into the Q&A. My name is Lewis Schiff. Excuse me. I'm coming to you live today from Williamsburg, Brooklyn, the center of the universe. And I have, in view of where I am now, a beautiful blue sky and overlooking a fabulous Manhattan skyline. So I'm one of the luckiest people in the world. And my guest today, which also makes me one of the luckiest people in the world, is Norm Brodsky. Norm's nickname when he was in the weeds building his business was Stormin' Norman. But over time, he became the exit strategy king. At least that's what I call him, because he has learned and mastered the art of the exit of his businesses to the tunes of hundreds of millions of dollars. But even more to Norm's great credit, he's made nothing but friends during those exits. He's accumulated friends and fans and people who love to spend time with him. So I'm not surprised to see so many of you here with us today. Welcome, Norm, to this podcast.
Hey, thanks, Lewis. It's nice to hear nice words from you for a change.
I always say nice things behind your back.
I see. They haven't come forth yet. It's great to be here and to maybe let the people on the call ask questions about building their business and exiting their business.
Yes.
You know, every time I build a business and I exit, I'm really sad because our businesses are our babies, you know, we love them. And so when people ask me, are you sad? I would say, I'm really sad. And they said, but you got so much money. I said, yeah, but that was my child, you know, and you sort of give up your child. But you can raise other kids along the way. So that's my excuse. I always go back into the business world. And I promised my wife about 2 years ago I would stop, and since that promise, that I've broken 6 times. So it's sort of an illness for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's true. Your video is a little choppy, unless it's on my end, but hopefully it'll clear itself up in a second.
Okay.
So Norm, you know, when we were getting ready for this conversation, I talked a little bit about what we wanted to talk about. But the thing you said to me, which I think is one of the most profound things you have ever said, and that's a long list of things, you said, make every business decision as if you're going to run the company forever, and make every business decision as if you're going to sell the company tomorrow. And that feels like incredibly powerful advice. So could you please help us understand what that means?
Sure. Well, how's the video now? Am I coming through all right?
It's like 3/4 good.
Yeah, okay. So you build a business as it's going to last forever, because when you do that, you don't take any shortcuts. And by shortcuts, I mean hiring from competitors. You know, train your own people, you know. So you build a business as if you're going to hold it forever. The other thing is you build a business as if you're going to sell it, because when you sell your business, what's the one thing you want? You want to get the most money possible, right? Would you rather sell it for $1 billion or $2 billion? You know, it's one of those things, or 10 million or 15 million. So when you do that, you set the business up properly. You know what I mean? You hire people who last. You train people so they're there, because when you sell a business, the buyer is not only interested in how much does the business make, but they're interested in how the business is run and the staff that runs this business. So if you take those two concepts, even though they're diametrically opposed, and put them together, you're going to end up with the best possible business and you're going to get the best price.
Now that idea, that notion would apply to, let's say, any decision I have to make today. So I have a decision about making a hiring decision, or I have a decision about starting something new or whatever. And so how often in your business life, in the Sturm and Drang and the action of a business, how often do you think you nailed it where you said, this is the right decision because it meets both criteria? Is this something we hit 10% of the time, 90% of the time? What?
So that's really difficult to measure. You know, in every business, whether you admit it or not, you shouldn't admit it to yourself. You make mistakes. It happens. And so if you learn from those mistakes, you don't make the same mistake over and over again. So every decision you make, let's start with that, you're not 100%. You better be more than 50%, but you don't have to be 100%. So that question is really difficult to ask. But when I take a risk, the first risk is starting the business itself. And as the business grows, you should take less and less risk with the business. If you want to start, let's say, a subsidiary, don't use your business to leverage that new subsidiary. You know, use outside money. Take the money that maybe is yours in the business. Maybe you borrow it outside, but don't leverage one business against the other business. But yet you have to leverage your own business up for it to grow. You know, so that's one small bit of advice.
You have been on the Birthing of Giants board of experts since we started it, and you're part of the original faculty of the Birthing of Giants going back 20 some odd years now. And one of the places where you really get to show us all of your, 40 some odd years of experience is at the last day of the program, where everyone brings up their 1 year from today plans that they've been working really hard on all week. And they stand up in front of you and a couple other experienced entrepreneurs, and they lay out, what they've learned during the week and how they're going to do it. And how often do you think that they're keeping that idea in mind? Every business decision is for a company that's going to run forever and be sold tomorrow. How often do you think that those business owners get that point of view?
Well, when they hear it for the first time, it's sort of astounding to do it. And I don't mean every single little decision that you make. It's what you lay out, the plans you lay out for your business, and really what you follow within that business itself. Your hiring practices, for instance, it's not every little hiring practice, but it's the hiring practice itself. Who you're going after, how are you going to build a business? So that happens every day, no, but most days.
Right.
You set down the standards that you want, and you have your employees try to follow those standards. So right. It's really the standards that in the business that you're setting down and how you go about them that carry it through.
Now, let me ask you, so at that 1 year from today's session, you hear people's big ideas for creating some serious value creation in their businesses in all sorts of ways. You exited your first business 15 years ago, maybe now, almost
maybe a little longer.
Ago. Well, your first business probably you've exited a long time ago, but your first big exit was
about 15 years ago, correct.
I'm curious, you are hearing numbers now, when people say, well, my business is valued as a multiple of X of EBITDA or a multiple of Y of revenue. I mean, one question I have is, what do you think when you hear those big numbers now that people are actually getting? But two, what do you think about that process? Like, sometimes they're just selling a piece of software, or they're selling something they started 2 years ago.
It's amazing. That's a great question, because here's what happened. When I first went into business, my goal was to build a business that did $100 million in sales. I was always, how much did I do in sales today? That was my big goal, my yearly goal and stuff like that. Well, I reached that plateau during my first business, which obviously didn't last too long. But the second set of businesses I went into, the goal was to sell your business for $100 million, and I was able to achieve that a couple of times. Today's goal is really, really interesting. Everybody wants to build a unicorn company. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a company valued at $1 billion or more. So that's the exciting part. As a matter of fact, as you know, we started a company with the idea to make it a unicorn company. And I'm really excited about that. But so today's goal is so different. You know, I've helped entrepreneurs pro bono for the last 30 years. And so I'm working with 3 entrepreneurs today, and they're well on their way to building unicorn companies. And I was a little jealous. I never had that thought in mind, and I never had the opportunity to do that. But today, we're about to launch our unicorn company. I say it'd be launched in the next 3 to 4 months, and I'm very excited about it. So that's the trend that the high spirit entrepreneurs are now doing.
And what do you think? So we've got a lot of interesting people. And by the way, in about 3 minutes, folks who are guests, I'm going to open it up for your questions. So get them ready, and we're looking forward to hearing from you. But of course, somebody who wants to build a solid business that they can sell for 10 or 20 or 30, 40. I mean, we are still encouraging these people. That's an incredible accomplishment.
It's an amazing accomplishment. Even if you sell it for $5 million, that's a lot of money. And so everybody has their own dreams and their own goals to look at. And I think it's really important that even before you start your business, you lay out what your goals are. I did that many, many years ago, and I put 3 or 4 main goals on my refrigerator, and I looked at them every day. And I think that if you write something down and you look at it constantly, you'll remember it all the time. And every decision you're going to make, or lots of decisions you're going to make, are based on how do I get to those goals. It's the same thing with your company. You have company goals. And if you don't, you should have them. And you should set them down every year. And the 3 or 4 main goals, whether it be attached to dollars or attached to people, should be written down for you to look at. And your decision should be based on those goals. I set up 2 sets of goals. I set up a year-to-year goal, and I set up a long-range goal, stuff that I want to really attempt to get to. And if you do that, your chances of getting to that goal are enhanced.
Yeah, I think that's true. Now, the work we do at Birthing a Giants, which you've been so instrumental to for the past several years, what are the trends you're seeing in terms of who's figuring out this moment? What type of entrepreneurs are getting this moment? What kind of entrepreneurs are struggling with this moment?
Yeah, well, so the Birthing of Giants has brought to light for me that the entrepreneurs of today are different than the entrepreneurs of 30 and 40 years ago. They're more socially conscious, number one. They're more employee caring, number 2. Even though money or selling or earnings might be a goal, it is not the primary goal within their company. So I find that very interesting together. The other thing I find when we do Birthing of Giants are the camaraderie, the teams that are formed there. You know, some of my lifetime friends I met through business, some competitors, people in other industries. As you know, we run Whiskey Wednesday every Wednesday, and you see the people come up that I've helped before years, maybe 15, 20 years ago come up, and they all have a common sense of helping other people. So the young man who started Whiskey Wednesday with me, who went through Birthing of Giants, his goal is to do what I do, get people together, help people build their business. So there's a camaraderie that exists, and Birthing of Giants sort of brings that together. So I'm really happy to be part of that. Yeah, that's my commercial for you, by the way.
Well, I will just reinforce the commercial to say that people come to Birthing of Giants obviously to improve their business proposition, and they do just that. But I just, every time they leave, they say, this is the greatest group of people I've ever had a chance to spend a week with, business-wise.
When we started out, that your competitors were your enemy, but they don't have to be. Most competitors are in different parts of the country, and you can learn so much from your competitors. It's amazing. You can pick up things that you never heard about. They can exchange ideas and stuff like that. Don't be afraid of a competitor.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, let's have questions. Let's have some hands raised, or you can use the Q&A box. or the chat window. We're watching for you now. What do you got, folks? Oh, I got a couple people. Oh, let's start with Ethan Dowie, our young man from Rider University. Let's see. Here we go, Ethan.
What's going on, guys?
Hey,
Norm,
buddy.
you hopping on?
Ethan.
So, Norm, I run a branded apparel and promotional items distributor business, and we've been in business for about 9 months, and our main problem is cash flow. Do you have any tips for improving cash flow early on in a business?
I think that cash is everybody's problem to begin with. It's the hardest commodity to get and the easiest commodity to spend. So with that in mind, and it's real difficult, especially for a young entrepreneur such as yourself. It's hard to borrow it. It's hard to get loans from banks and lending institutions and things like that. So you have to be, the one thing that you must have in your mind is you have to survive. So with that in mind, there's a lot of perils, especially with you getting cash. You can't grow beyond your cash ability to do it. So in the beginning, you may have to slow down a little bit of growth, making sure you last through the day. I've seen lots of businesses who had great sales, they had great margins, and they went out of business because they overextended. So the one thing you are to particularly keep your eye on, make sure your growth rate and your expense rate are within what you can do in cash flow and what you can get from cash flow. Because you could have the greatest idea in the world, run out of cash, and you're out of business. You know, I've seen profitable businesses go out of business that way. So be careful.
Be careful.
Great answer.
And
Thank
aggressive.
you. Thanks. Yeah, be careful and aggressive. That's a great way to put it.
Great
Thanks,
answer.
Ethan.
Thank you, guys.
Daniel, let me give you the talking stick here, Daniel.
So in our space, I don't think with what we do, we're a bit different than a lot of the other people in the Giants program. I think Susan Kidd, Jerry Simpson, and Bob Eisinger are kind of like the few of us in this little clan here. Obviously, they've done significantly larger sizes of revenue than we have. But, you know, our biggest challenge in growth is obviously the cycle in government. It's a 10-year cycle, right? So you win these RIDIQs, you know, large contract vehicles as the buying mechanisms for government. And obviously we bid on all of those, and, you know, they're continuously in protest in federal court because somebody's been treated there, been unfairly, and we eventually won them. We actually just won 3 this week. So an FAA one and 2 GSA one, Stars 3 through our 2 Stars 3s for our joint ventures, which have been very the first version of Stars we did very
Don't get into too much detail because this is not a government.
So our problem obviously is in these interim cycles of getting these large contract mechanisms awarded. You know, because that's the only way to make big revenue in this business, and we're in that cycle. We're graduated 8A, and we did well in 8A, but we're now in the non-8A world, the non-minority world. So, well, what do you suggest in finding sources of revenue outside of that, so we can continue to have growth and future revenue without relying on the government?
So the first thing, Daniel, I want to say is that I don't like the word big revenue. I like the word big profits to start with. So you don't have to answer that.
Yes.
No, I understood. I want everybody else on the call to understand that. So a lot of people in your particular niche that you do in government contracts, and I did lots of government contracts. I would say city and state was a good part of my businesses going all over the place. I set up another company that did light contracts that was in private industry. There's 2 things that you could possibly do. You can try to get contracts outside the government or customers outside the government, or particularly work for you to do the government. There may be some revenue. You can use those products that you make and maybe start another company to do that for private industry. So you have to look what materials and what resources you have and find another way to deploy them especially during contracts or even growth. And maybe in the end, what happened is I started with government contracts, and government contracts ended only to be 20% of my business. Government contracts are great for one reason. You can make money and they always pay you.
Yeah. So this is the other thing. So I've never worked in private, or I mean, I've worked in private, but never sold to private before. So, you know, I've spent my entire career on the government side and selling to government. So I have absolutely no idea how to, you know, we're a cybersecurity firm. We've been doing this for 20 years in government. We're very good. We do.
I'm sure you are.
Coast Guard, weather service, weather satellites, very high value stuff, which if commercial knew that we did, they would trust us, but we don't even know how to break into the commercial space.
Right, you don't know how, but there's plenty of people that do know how. You got to find the right person to help you along.
And the question is, how do we find that person, right?
That's the question. Yeah, so you go to headhunters, you do research, market research to find them. I'm sure there's a few around that could get started, and the first one may not work out, but you're going to learn something, even if that person, he or she, doesn't work out. You're going to learn a lot from it.
You suggest, because we have the past performance and expertise, finding someone who's good at breaching the commercial space to sell it, and that's
absolutely, and learn from them.
Yeah,
they may not last with you. You know, that's what I would do.
All right, Daniel, I'm going to go on to the next one. Thank you so much. Great question. Then we have Annie, and then after Annie, we have Andrew White. Annie, allow to talk. There you go.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
I certainly can.
Okay. Hi, Norm. My question is, I'm entering my 5th year. I launched a luxury brand of luxury handbags. You know, we have you know, in spite of everything that has happened in the past 2 years, gone through a responsible growth and managed through everything. Thankfully, we have great support system. My question to you is, in your experience with your businesses, as well as with everyone that you mentor, what is the one single thing that will move the needle all the time from the lower million to finally pass the 10 million threshold and then have the win? What's the one thing, you know, like you, every morning I wake up, how many sales, what am I going to do? Sales is sales and profit. Yes. But I do wonder, what's the one thing that I should focus on day and night above and beyond the sales and profit?
First of all, before I answer that question, in fairness, I want to tell everybody, Andy's been up to Whiskey Wednesdays.
Yes.
So
yes, I held my own.
Oh yeah, you did, as a matter of fact, and brought a beautiful bottle of bourbon. The question is that you've been in business for 5 years, and what's the one big thing? So you're concentrating on that. I'll tell you what the one thing is that made most of my companies.
Yes.
It's people. Yes. Finding the right people. In other words, sales are great, profits are even better, you know, but you cannot do it all yourself, period.
Yes.
So the hardest part for entrepreneurs, because I've been one my entire life, is trusting people. Because we all think, and maybe it's true, I'm not so sure sometimes, that we can do things better than anybody else. And maybe we can. But there are people out there probably can do it better than me, or as good as me, or good enough.
Yes.
So you have to get the right people in place. You're like a one-woman show, right?
Yes.
You're the one who promotes your
Yes.
Correct. You're the one who promotes your product. You're the one who is the face of the thing. Now, I'm not telling you not to be the face of the thing anymore, but you have to get other people. Now, those people may already be in stores to promote your product in that store. They may be outside salespeople. They may people have other products to sell. I don't know what it is, but you have to find that is. If you really, really want to grow, you have to listen. Here's what happens.
Yes.
You can only make money, so much money with this, right?
Correct.
That's your 2 hands. But you can make unlimited money with this, your brain.
That's
So
very
what you're
powerful.
doing now is you're using the two hands. You got to
Yes.
use more of your brain. And that means you got to have people with two hands help you.
Yes. That's very good. I'm so glad I asked you that question. I needed to hear it today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Annie. Okay, next up is Andrew White. Andrew, do you mind if I'll put you in the talking thing? And then after Andrew will be Janet Livingston. Andrew, there you go.
Hey guys, appreciate you taking my question. I'll be brief. So we have two sides to our business. We have a services side and a product side. Now, typically, I know services are looked at when you're evaluating the business as a multiplier of EBITDA, whereas products are typically a multiplier of revenue. Now, when I look at doing my own evaluation, do I split the lines and do independent ones or do a combo? And I know investment bankers, they primarily look at statistics and strategic buyers are different, but just as a general rule, what would you folks recommend?
Well, first of all, what you say is basically, I'm not sure it's that true, especially when it comes to product line. It's very difficult, maybe in a startup phase, but if you have a mature business and you're selling product, EBITDA is not looked as a percentage of sales, period. You're reading all these units now where all these drink companies are getting 20 times sales or 10 times sales or 8 times sales. But if you have a mature business, that one that's been around for a period of time and it isn't growing at 100% a year, the product line also looks at the bottom line for EBITDA. So I'm not really sure of that. What's your product mix between service and products?
So basically, we run consulting services.
No. What's the percent of services?
About 60-40 services to product. And when I say product, it's basically software.
Oh, okay. Software is a different story. Yeah. Okay, so software has the biggest EBITDA in the world. So, but that's its product. Services is an easy thing. It's ongoing. I'm sure you have contracts that renew themselves, right? In your service contracts.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it's part of your product sale. You say they enter into a service agreement with your product sale. So they're pretty well linked, I would say. And so I wouldn't really worry about that. You can't get service unless you sold them a product.
Yeah, but it's funny because they don't relate to the same thing in my business. So the service doesn't relate to the actual product.
In what way doesn't it relate?
Well, so as an example, for what we do on the software side, we've been told that's typically running anywhere from 8 to 12 times revenue. And our services, which is a consulting service, is typically running around 3 to 4.
Yeah, but you're getting the service from selling your product. You don't have a separate service.
No, it's totally separate. We do two separate lines.
But it's your product, yes?
Correct.
You're servicing your product, right?
Correct.
So they're not separable. You can separate them, but you're only selling service to your product, right?
No. So it's strictly explained. Maybe this isn't the venue for it, but our product is service, but by a totally separate group.
Right. It sounds like you have two companies.
Two companies in one under the same name. That's what it basically is.
Right.
Yeah.
You have same customers?
Different customers.
Oh, so these are really two different companies.
So
operating
you're
on the same
right.
road.
Okay, different company. Okay. So you're right. Product is going to get you a better return if you're selling the companies. Your outcome, you want to sell companies? Is that why you're building them? You're building them to sell them now?
Correct.
Okay, so why not, if you can, get the most you can for the company, and the most you can is product. You're getting twice as much for your product as you are for the service, or maybe more. So I would concentrate on the product side of the company. And you don't have to sell both companies if you separate them. The product company and the service company aren't bound.
You bring up a good point, but culturally, I love my people. And so it's
so do we all. I told you before, it's your baby. And when somebody asks me about it, it's mine. And so if you want to cash out in one company, and it's a product company, the service company is a great company to run afterwards. I would keep the company separate, and I would concentrate as much as I can on the product company.
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
pretty straightforward. All right, Andrew, I'm going to mute you and we're going to move on. Thank you so much for the great question. Janet, you are up. Let me allow you to talk. There you go, Janet. You are on with Norm Brodsky and Lewis Schiff.
Okay, my question for you is this. We've had hyper growth since COVID has started, but it's not just COVID driven growth. We went from $3 million to 8 million, and we're expected to go from 8 to 12 next in 2022. I've been having VCs knock at my door left and right wanting to acquire my company, but they want me to remain part of it. So I guess I have a two-sided question. Do I really look at those deals, or do I go on to hire a CEO? I'm the creative. I am not a great CEO.
So most men and women who start companies are not great CEOs. They're exactly who you are. That's number one. So before I answer the question, I have to know is, what do you want to do with life? I mean, you should be able to answer that question.
Well, I can answer it. I exited thinking I didn't want to do this no more, and I got sucked right back into it because this is what I do.
Oh, no. Selling your company and exiting the entrepreneurial life is a different thing. I sell companies, and every time I say this is it for me, and I start new companies. So you're probably have the curse of the entrepreneur. You're going to end up in a company somewhere again. Yes. I mean, you're driven by it, and so that's not really the question. The question is, if you're going to exit the company, are you going to do it now because of the growth is tremendous? It's growing. And two things are happening now to you. One of them is that your company is having huge growth, and two, there's so much money around today. Now, those two factors may not be here in the next 3 or 5 years. I sold a company 15 years ago because of the fact that EBITDA was so high. My company was growing at an amazing rate. And I figured if I missed this cycle, if it went down again, the EBITDA cycle where I was getting big money for it, I'd have to wait 8 or 9 years for it to climb up where it was. And I wasn't willing to do that. I would rather open up a new company and take the money off the table. So if that's your desire to do it, this is the time to do it. It doesn't get better than this. You're at the top of a cycle. Now that top, I'm not predicting that the cycle's going to fall apart. That top could last for 2 or 3 or 5 years. But if you miss this cycle, it's going to be another 10 years for it to get back to the top of the cycle again. So you have to make that decision. It's a life decision. What do you want to do with your life? And is this the time to do it your life?
I appreciate the answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Janet. Great question. Mendy, you're up next. Mendy, you're allowed to talk.
Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, how you doing, Norm?
Good.
By the way, and Lewis, hi, thank you for inviting me here. There's no question here. I'm learning. We met at one of Joe Applebaum's events, so we spoke for a little bit. Okay. I'm in the real estate arena.
You're from Brooklyn?
Crown Heights, Brooklyn.
Right.
Okay. And I own properties in Philadelphia. And as well, I have a credit card merchant services for the past 27 years. And all my businesses have been really mom and pop style, just building brick by brick. I always wanted to scale my business, but as you said, people are the thing. You have to find the right people. But I can't complain, just doing it the way I did it. Doing well, happy, own a nice few amount of properties. Life is good. The sky is the limit.
All right, well.
It's good to hear that.
Thank you, and you're so close, you should stop up on a Whiskey Wednesday.
Yes, I would love to do that.
Give us a ring, and I'll be glad to invite you.
All right.
Thanks, Mendy.
Thank you.
So I see a couple of things here. I want to see if Chasen wants to ask his question. Chasen, do you want to If you do want that, go ahead and hit that hand raise button so I know to give you there you go, pal. Jason, good to hear from you.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Hope to see you in person soon. What do you look for in a business broker? Norm, I can't believe all these years. I don't think I asked you. I'm pretty sure you didn't in the first couple of rounds, but if you ever used a business broker, and then if you're going to use one for your agent in sale, what is that criteria that you want to look for in a business broker?
I'm going to tell you what I did, and I'm not sure I would advise that to everybody. Okay, I never used a business broker in any sale I had. Period. End of thing. I'm a little unusual. My background is I was a lawyer to start with, so I do hire plenty of lawyers and stuff like that. But I'm not a big fan of business brokers, especially when it comes to selling smaller businesses. That being said, I would suggest anybody who is selling a business of size get help and get proper help. And there are plenty of great companies out there who put together packages and sell businesses. It's a really difficult thing to do. I wrote about it in a series of articles for Inc. magazine. It's called The Offer. I think it's still online with Inc. And you can follow that series. It was a series of that lasted for a year and change. And it told all the stories that I went through handling this deal myself. Yeah, and I'm not sure that if I had that to do all over again, I wouldn't hire a professional to do it.
All right, good to know.
Jason, how are you? Where are you located now?
We're completely virtual. Yeah, everybody's now spread out across the country and the world, and it's working.
That's great.
Yeah. So
well, stop up and see us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in Riverdale, so easy to get to.
I know where you are. Yeah,
we'll make it. Okay. We'll make it. Yeah,
great.
Thanks, Jason. All right, and then as all great poetry does, we will end where we began with a final closing thought from Ethan Dowie, and then we will be wrapping up this Q&A with Norm Brodsky. Ethan?
You guys can't get rid of me, huh? No, so last question. So Norm, when we were in Oxford, you spoke a lot about your three principles that you always look for in businesses. And one thing you said was that you always sit on the edge of technology. And then you transition into how innovating an industry is something that all small businesses can aim to do. And that's really how you differentiate yourself from the pack. What is key with keeping that in mind, and how do you differentiate an industry? What do you look for on day-to-day problems that you're trying to solve?
Whoa, that's a mouthful of questions. So my three criteria is, those of you who are on the phone don't know, the business concept or idea has to be over 100 years old. I have to find a niche within that business, and I sit on the edge of technology always. As far as, and it's not difficult to find businesses like that. We're in the midst of opening up a new business, and the business is education. Now that's over 100 years old. As a matter of fact, we go to Oxford, we're now staying in a school that's 700 years old at Oxford. We're doing it this summer. And I think birthing is, the division of Birthing of Giants is running a session there also at the same time we're bringing these students there. But I lost my train of thought.
The three items that make a business work.
Yeah, this new business is education. So it's been around, but it's colleges are broken. And so you can find an industry that's been around forever, that still exists, and it could be broken. There could be a problem with it. Colleges, for instance, students take 4 or 5 years to get through. They walk out with a 6-figure debt, and they don't have a job. I mean, that's ridiculous. First of all, it shouldn't take 4 or 5 years. And second of all, you should walk out with a job owing nothing. So that's the deal we're now putting together. So they exist. If you want an idea for a business, it exists out there. You just got, my father had a great saying. You say there's $1 million under your shoe. So as a kid, I used to look under my shoe for quarters, and it wasn't until I was an adult I realized what he meant. He meant that there's all sorts of ideas around you. You just have to keep your eyes open to find out those ideas. And that exists today. You look at something, I'm sure everybody on this call has looked at something and say, that's stupid. It shouldn't be done that way. Or I can do it better than this, you know? Because I know entrepreneurs, they look at something, they walk into somebody's shop or somebody's store or somebody's business and say, I could do it better. I could do it better this way. So that's what you keep your eyes open for. Better.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
And just to follow up on that, we run a program at Oxford called Moonshots and Moneymakers. It's in August. And what we do there is essentially bring together folks who are already involved in running really great businesses and want to figure out what is their moonshot inside the business. In other words, in simple terms, how do you disrupt yourself? How do you disrupt your own business and create a business that's got a totally different trajectory? And I think we heard stories today like that from Andrew, who's got a product software business and a consulting business, and Janet, who's got a business that's clearly got a moonshot style there. So anyway, Norm, that brings us to the end of our time together. I want to thank you for giving us 45 minutes of your time, very valuable. And for those of you who are interested in the Birthing of Giants Fellowship Program or the Moonshots and Moneymakers Program, come to our website and essentially let us know that you're interested by filling out an application for either one of those items. The programs are delivering great results. You get to spend time with folks like Norm and Doug Tatum and George Genrin and some really amazing entrepreneurs that have decided that this is the time in their life to give back and to help you succeed. So Norm, thank you for taking the time today. Always grateful for your wisdom. And to all of you, have a great weekend and a great holiday. And thanks for joining us on this webinar. Thanks to the Birthing of Giants team for making this happen.